Sasha Rose, continuing with Align with the Star Wisdom of 2022. So we're going to be looking at the entire year through the lens of the Venus cycle and to cluster together the different parts of the year with the Venus cycle. So we have a Venus cycle that started January 8th, right around the time that the new year begins in the Gregorian calendar, which is really the energy of that December solstice on December 21st, right? That the January 1st is in that energy. So it's this cardinal earth. It's this initiating earth energy that we start our calendar. And then we have the astrological new year that happens in the spring in the northern hemisphere, in the fall in the southern hemisphere with March equinox. Regardless of which hemisphere, that's the initiating fire of Aries. And so that's in some ways a second new beginning of the year. So there's a lot of different ways that we can look at this. Let's jump right in and look at how does the year look with the Venus cycle holding all of the happenings that we're going to talk about for the astrology. So here we have it. Here we have the first part of the morning star. The morning star phase is from January 13th to August 14th of 2022. That means that Venus will be leaving the morning sky around August 14th of 2022, depending on where you live and your view of her. So this here encompasses really the first quarter and the second quarter of 2022. We're used to thinking of the different divisions of the year in each season, each 3 months that make up the 12-month year. So we want to keep our eye on the sun in the solar feminine way and be looking at the sun and how that is infusing the themes of the sign that the sun is in, as well as Venus and her relationship with the sun, which is the Venus cycle. So we have here in January, we have her starting on the 8th, visible on the 13th. We talked about the nodes shifting into Venus's sign of Taurus. Uranus went direct. So January was big as far as this introduction of the new theme. We know that Venus and Mars have been riding together in this very close orb. And then at the end of January, we had Venus go direct. So we're catching up here to where we are in present time, but we can see the themes of this sacred feminine really taking her power, really learning how to work with that Capricorn energy skillfully. We have our first new Venus portal on the day that Venus went direct. And that was visible in the morning sky. We had a lot of beautiful pictures from that. And we're entering this time in February, where all planets are direct between the 3rd of February until the 29th of April. So we're building energy. She reached her greatest brilliance on February 9th, and we had the peak Venus portal on the 12th. And then she had that meetup with Mars, that instruction to harmonize, to integrate, to alchemize the masculine and feminine within in order to open to our sacred mission and be more powerful agents of change at this time. The sun just slipped into Pisces, so that really changed the backdrop. You might have noticed that on the 18th. And then we're going to have our second new Venus portal in Capricorn on the 27th of February. This is an important one. At this point, you may be getting clear what your goals are for this year, what you want to accomplish, and what is that deep heart longing to go big, to be bold, to be ambitious, to do something impossible, even if you don't know yet what that is. This is the portal to anchor that in, even if you don't know how yet, because this is, it feels like in that morning star time and with all this Capricorn energy, I had this image of grabbing the gold ring, you know, when you're on the merry-go-round. I don't know if you had that when you were a child. We went to the park and had this beautiful merry-go-round and you'd try to grab for that gold ring each time. And sometimes you'd get it, and most of the time you wouldn't. But the grabbing that shiny, beautiful hope of the goal feels like some of this morning star energy. Like there's, of course, that deep, deep desire of what we want to create in our lives, we want to make a bold move. And that can look a lot of different ways depending on your life and what you're wanting. Right after that new Venus portal, Venus conjuncts Pluto in Capricorn, the first conjunction in this cycle. How do we potentize our sacred feminine and claim our full power as we begin this journey? Because the journey is really getting going now. Mars and Venus shift into Aquarius on the 5th, and we're going to leave behind that Capricorn energy. Venus has been in Capricorn since early November of 2021. So to come into that innovative and revolutionary with heart energy of what is the solution? What is my vision? What is my mission for the age of Aquarius? And then they're going to have their second meetup on the 5th. So it's going to be Mars, Venus meet in Aquarius at that zero potent point of infinite possibilities. That really is that quantum peak. That would be an excellent day to plan to get out in the morning to see them. Always the visual is going to fortify that connection to be on the earth, to be with breath, to be with stillness, to be with song, writing, all of that. These days are particularly potent for receiving the transmission, receiving our personal instructions from within. And then we have a peak Venus portal in Aquarius with that Venus in the morning star is Aquarius, and then the moon will be setting in Leo. So that opposition with the moon and that choosing the Aquarian energy, that's part of the peak Venus portal. We're choosing between going with the old story and potentially with the moon in Leo, there can be some old drama around relationship and relating. And this is the time to hold that large perspective, that eagle eye of Aquarius, and to be in our heart space. Venus in Aquarius has a bit of a feeling of Athena, that there's a certain quality of air and logic and planning and strategy, even as she's meeting her beloved. Aquarius and Capricorn are not gushy, mushy, lovey-dovey signs. It's very much about finding the mates that align with us, partnerships of all kinds. Aquarius is very much about community, so it might not be a romance per se, but the fulfillment, the longing, the passion to link with like-minded beings right now is very great and very fulfilling to find them. So this is not just about love relationships, although it could be that too. And then we have a huge beginning of the astrological new year. Sun goes into Aries equinox on March 20th, right as Venus reaches her maximum elongation, her greatest distance from the sun. And yet she's so empowered, and it feels like this is the first, it's like the individuation of the young heroine from that source energy, and feeling the support of the sun as she goes on this quest. She doesn't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. And in the equinox time, the equinox and the solstices is a really good time to create some space and to clear out. Traditionally, this is a time of cleansing, cleaning the house, clearing the house, doing, even if it's just a one day of clean eating or giving up, those patterns we get into with food, and fortifying our bodies, really bringing in the food and the nourishment that helps us to be strong, and to notice what happens for us physically at these times, because this is the sun gates are those equinoxes and those solstices. So we want to be listening. I had a teacher that taught that during the equinoxes and solstices, you can really tell what's happening with your body. So pay special attention if you have something come up during that time, or your emotional life. That's a big one. So we start the astrological new year. Venus is at max distance from sun, as morning star, still super bright. And we're going to begin our heroine journey of awakened heart on March 25th. So perfect timing for those that hear the call, want to journey with us. I'll share more about that at the end. We have our first new Venus portal in Aquarius on March 28th. This is the third one. And so it's a very different energetic than we've been having. And it's time to attune to that Aquarian mission and keep that perspective and keep that spaciousness. Solutions arise out of spaciousness, not out of reactivity, as we move deeper into this morning star time and this forward motion. On the 4th, Mars in Aquarius meets Saturn in Aquarius. So we're having some clashing in that Aquarian energy. Mars wants to go forward, Saturn wants to put a stop to it. And so it's like the brakes and the gas at the same time. But Mars can learn something from Saturn, from the elder, from the teacher, and can refine his approach. And he's just come off this meeting with Venus, and learning how to be in service to the sacred feminine. And now he's meeting this teacher who's like, hey, you're a little sloppy there. You could clean that up. So that could be a very positive meetup. Probably not the best time to start something and initiate something. The new Venus portal on the 28th, the third one, actually is a great time to initiate something. Anytime there's a new Venus portal, not to say it needs to be on that day. I usually like to take that day to receive and really feel the energy, but that is a starting point. So later that day or the next day, it can be a good time to begin. And then the peak Venus portal becomes that fruition in the middle of the month on that micro level of cycling that we're doing. So after Mars meets Saturn, Venus goes into Pisces. That's going into that limitless water, the unconditional waters, that sense of nourishment and love. And Venus loves being in Pisces. She's exalted there. So there's going to be a great expansion that might help after maybe some potential contraction with the Mars meet Saturn, might to help to ease whatever correction has happened. Saturn teaches us through correction, and that's okay. That happens. We see that in nature all the time, where different parts of nature correct other parts of nature in the animal world and the plant world. And so bringing in that salve of the Venus and Pisces, and then Jupiter conjuncts Pisces, and we've got this gorgeous, really inspirational spiritual energy. So those days are amazing days for, on the 5th, on the 12th, for doing something to deepen your heart, doing something creative, spending time nurturing what you love. That, there's parts of what we do when we have a business or a project, or in the work we do, our sacred work, there's parts that are very creative, and there's parts that are more like, oh, got to do this. It's not my favorite, but I need to get it done. So I wouldn't schedule that more busy work on these days. I would schedule time to be expansive, to vision, to dream, to have the feeling that you have a whole day to be in an energy, to be out on the land in whatever way you can. Then we have the peak Venus portal on the 12th, that same day. So that's a beautiful day. And then Venus and Mars are leaving that very close connection that they've had. Mars moves into Pisces on the 14th. And then we have the sun going into Taurus and starting to ground in the fire of the Aries energy and the new beginnings. We're now going to see what gets roots and what can sustain us to move forward. The next slide here is the rest of the morning star phase, and that includes the second quarter and then the third quarter, almost all of it, and then we transition into underworld. So we have a new Venus portal in Pisces, Venus exalted. That is the energy in April is pretty intense. So that would be a really good day to resource and to fuel up at that new Venus portal, to not to say that out of fear, but to get nourished, to nourish oneself. And then Pluto's going to go retrograde. Oh, actually, I think I have the dates mixed up here. So it looks like Pluto goes retrograde first, and then the new Venus portal. But the big event here is the first eclipse of eclipse season, in North Node eclipse in Taurus, partial solar eclipse in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. solar eclipses amplify everything by 100,000, lunar eclipses by 10,000. So everything, the positive, the negative, all of it. And so to be really in more of an internal space, it's up to you. It's your choice if you want to view the eclipse or not. You can find out where it's visible. Maybe I'll include a link for those that are curious. Personally, I don't view eclipses. I'm very sensitive to the energies. Not a good day to have to be social, be out there, to stretch yourself, to present in front of a large audience. Better to tuck in and to be in the reflection mode and writing. There might be something that really comes through around the deep Venusian work that you have to bring. We've had eclipses before in Taurus in the last Venus cycle, so this isn't totally new, but it's a deepening of what that energy means. And it also coincides with Venus and Jupiter coming together in Pisces, which is another beautiful combination of heart and that visionary teacher, that expansive teacher. The two benevolence come together, and we're going to get to see them in the morning sky, which is really going to be gorgeous to behold. So that whole time from the new Venus portal in Pisces through to the conjunction and the solar eclipse, those 4 days, take it easy, go slow, retreat as much as you can. Venus is going to go into Aries on the 2nd of May, and that's going to feel more like now she's in that beginning energy, that fire energy. And there's a peak Venus portal in Aries on the 12th. So that's going to amplify that. And then Jupiter goes into Aries on the 10th. Yeah, I keep mixing up my dates here, but you can see the flow. So there's a lot of Aries energy that's starting to come forward, and it may feel like it's really go time, and it's time to take some risks. It's time to implement what you've been thinking about, what you've been talking about. And we do have at the same time a Mercury retrograde until June 3rd. So, the Mercury retrograde, it happens 4 times a year. We can't stop everything for every Mercury retrograde. Yet it is wise not to sign contracts during Mercury retrograde, make any big purchases. And I'm not saying this out of superstition. I'm actually saying this from lived experience. Back up your tech. Just be extra mindful around communication. Gemini is communication, Mercury is communication. And not to be in fear about it, but just to, again, work with that energy, have the wind at your back. Don't swim upstream and make a bunch of commitments during Mercury retrograde in Gemini, because it's such changeable energy. When June rolls around, you may feel differently and you may need to renegotiate. That's just energy lost. Plus, there's a solar eclipse, a lunar eclipse happening on the 15th. So that's really wobbly energy to have retrograde and lunar eclipse together. It's the first South Node Scorpio eclipse that we've had in this eclipse pair of Taurus and Scorpio. And so again, that's a time to tuck in to, we're in an eclipse season in April and May. And there'll be moments when we still need to be more external, but it's a beautiful time to take that time within, to meditate, to be in silence, to be in listening to your own guidance. And really, it's such an amplified time to touch in with what is moving through your heart and what's the old story, especially with this one with Scorpio. What's the old story that wants to be released? What's the old heartbreak? What's the grief that's ready to be released in order to be more available to the present moment? The sun moves into Gemini on the 20th, which will again change that background energy. And then Mars goes into Aries on the 24th. So we have a lot of Aries energy. The sun has moved out, but Mars moves in. And so that may fuel us, through this spiraling inward time of the eclipses to remember the spark of what we're doing, and then be moving forward again. That new Venus portal in Aries on the 26th of May is very exciting. It's the 5th time that Venus is meeting up with the moon in the morning sky. And you'll notice, I don't think I said this, but after the third one, she'll start to be lower and lower and lower. She's in descent, not until the third portal though, not at the first, not at the second. She's still gaining all of her brilliance and height. But you may start to notice that she is starting to descend, coming into contact with the trials and tribulations. And these are an important part of the initiation on the heroine's journey, not to be avoided for sure. So we want to see what comes up, to be humbled by what we're trying that doesn't work. This is a time to really learn from our mistakes and not to be afraid of making mistakes, especially with this Aries energy. And then to keep moving, to know that's part of the process of this refining, to become more of our authentic self and more of our powerful, more of a powerful being, creating what we want to create. The new Venus portal in Gemini on the 26th. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. I skipped a whole portal. So once Venus goes into Taurus, it's going to ground things out. Taurus sustains fixed earth. Mercury goes direct in Taurus. So that can help us to take that Aries energy and keep going with it. Taurus is slow but steady, but productive. And then we have a Saturn retrograde happening the days before a Saturn or, Jupiter retrograde, and after, we may feel more of that turning around reorientation energy. We're going to go back. Saturn's going to go back in Aquarius and revisit, what is the mission? How do I master being an innovator at this time, that we're waking up and liberating who we are as humans. So this is an important part of the process. Saturn is mastery. And so that's not a good time to, so Mercury goes direct on the 3rd and Saturn goes retrograde on the 4th. So I would wait until that Saturn retrograde energy clears before trying to launch something and go forward. So maybe the 6th, and definitely by the peak Venus portal on the 11th. We have the sun entering Cancer. We have another solar gate happening with solstice. And that, again, is a beautiful time to touch into our bodies, our health, our homes, to gather with friends, especially in Cancer, is a good time to tend to our relations. Cancer is the opposite of Capricorn. And so in this Venus and Capricorn energy, we're transmuting some of the shadow Capricorn to dominate, to step over. That's the shadow Capricorn. And when we bring the nourishment of Cancer and that care, and the care especially for those who are the most vulnerable and sensitive, we're bringing that to the top of the mountain. So this is really good to touch in to how we're doing, because we're in that morning star bold. We can't get too caught up in, what everyone thinks of us. As women, we've been conditioned to stop ourselves a lot because of that. But we really also need to be listening to those, especially close to us. Family is associated with Cancer, or friends that feel like family. So it's a good time to gather and touch in and share our hearts. And then Venus goes into Gemini, and we get that reverberation back to her Gemini cycle, in a sense, and the cycle we just finished, and any sensitive points that were activated in that cycle, you may see those themes revisited. And then the new Venus portal happens in Gemini, so that's a focal point of Venus being in Gemini on the 26th. In the calendar, there's the degrees for all of this. I didn't put them in because there's just so much to cover. Mars moves into the grounded Taurus on July 4th. Uranus moves into that 18-degree, that 18-degree slot of Taurus, all the way from July 7th to October 11th. So there we have that 18 degrees again. And remember, the Venus cycle started at 18 degrees Capricorn. So now Uranus is making a trine. This revolutionary energy in Taurus is trining the spot that Venus started this cycle. It's a very excellent time, very excellent time to move forward with our sacred mission, and to I would say I was thinking of a better word than push, but to radiate, to move forward, to allow ourselves to pursue our goals around what got seeded at the beginning of the cycle. The peak Venus portal will be in Gemini. And, we may be having some themes, as I said, from the last cycle come in to integrate. And then Venus comes into Cancer, into that sweetness of Cancer and the sensitivity. Chiron retrogrades in Aries on the 19th of July. And that's, I'm actually not even sure why Chiron is in there, but, but he made an appearance. And so, I think that I was putting that in there because Venus is entering Cancer. That's a sign that can be a real sensitization of this morning star energy. And then Chiron retrograding in Aries is also assisting the masculine aspect to tune into how is the masculine, how is your masculine supporting your feminine? And so that attunement point. Sun goes into Leo on the 22nd, which usually feels like that's a different kind of Leo is fixed fire, and we've got that fire energy again and that expression. And it's a good time to be in presentation mode, in social mode, and to express ourselves creatively, and especially through whatever work we're doing. Getting on the stage is easier to do when there's Leo energy. We have a new Venus portal in Cancer, still in that sensitive water sign. And that will be our 7th and final new Venus portal in Morning Star, right when a couple days later, the North Node, the collective evolution, comes together with Uranus, the revolutionary, at 18 degrees Taurus. And then Mars comes right in the next day and also conjuncts. So we have North Node, Uranus, and Mars. We get to see how healed the masculine is. This is a pretty volatile combination, or it could be, especially Mars and Uranus together, and then the collective evolution is involved. So it feels like part of the assignment right now is that there needs to be, everyone needs to find their mission to change the world in the way that they do, and to do that within including the Venusian principle is what I'm trying to say. So acts of violence and destruction, and that's the unhealed masculine coming forth. So how can we recreate the world without tearing it down? That is a good time to lay a little bit low. You don't want to get in power struggles. You don't want to be in that volatile energy, and you don't want to leave yourself out on the limb. Take extra time while driving, give yourself extra space, do what you need to do to keep your cool, because the collective may be feeling the heat of that. Then Mars is going to come into that North Node, and then we have Mars squaring Saturn. So now Mars is in Taurus, wanting to make forward motion, already a little bit frustrated in Taurus because Mars wants to go fast and Taurus is slow, and then squaring that Saturn, who wants to also slow Mars down. So that could also be a time of frustration, and not a time to put yourself out there as the day that you're doing something. I'm just trying to point those days out to you. The rest of the days that I'm not saying, I'm not giving you that little heads up, are good days to move forward, because we're still in the morning star energy. It's go time in creating what we want to create. And then peak Venus portal happens on the 10th, and then Venus moves into Leo on the 1st, which is really sweet. It's right near the cross quarter there. Of course, we have the solstice and the equinox, and then we have the cross quarter points for the sun. And so Venus coming into Leo adds some fun and some of that fiery energy and a creative expression, and potentially more erotic energy into the mix, into this morning star mix before she goes into the underworld. So it feels like it's the last dance here before the whole vibe changes, which is going to happen in the underworld. So here we are in the underworld. I love this picture. Couldn't find the authors on the other pictures, the creators. But this is Persephone in the Garden of Hades by Keisha Siemens. And wow, what an underworld image. I just love this. It's magical and surreal. And she's in the underworld. So we will have Venus disappearing around the 13th of August. And we'll be invisible to us all the way until the 1st of December. So that's the end of the 3rd quarter, that very last tail end with the Virgo time. And then the 4th quarter that she'll be in the underworld. It's a long time, 3.5 months. And there's no way we can retreat for the whole time. We still need to do life. And yet it is not the time to plan big launches, to push hard. This is the time you want to collect everything that you've planted in Morningstar. You want to put it into motion. You want to go in and work on creative projects. In the heroine's journey, we're going to be identifying a major creative project we want to work on in Morningstar, and then we're going to be supporting each other to work on it in the underworld time with accountability and inspiration, because it is such a great time to get something done. Do you have a bunch of content to create? Are you writing a book? Do you want to launch your website once Venus is an evening star? This is the time to tuck in. Do you have paintings that have been calling to you? Whatever it is, whatever your creative project is. An important piece here is that Mars goes into Gemini on the 20th. Mars is going to retrograde in Gemini, and Mars is going to start a new cycle in Gemini, which is the sign that Venus just ended her cycle. So there we have, again, that reverberation between the two, which I love. And Gemini is very androgynous and loves to switch between the masculine and feminine. And part of the lesson of the last cycle was learning within us when to have our attention out and when to have it in. So we're doing that internally. And then we're also dancing with the sky story. When do I, show up and take the hot seat and put myself out there and do a video like this? When do I tuck in and, work on my creative project behind the scene? It's really important to know. To not burn out during this incredibly intense time that we're living through. The sun will go into Virgo on the 22nd, which is very conducive for underworld energy. There can be like this collective, almost like sorrow that happens when Venus leaves the morning star position. Even if you haven't been getting up to see her, it's interesting to feel. It's like a psychological, like, where'd you go? And then Virgo is really about this refining and becoming whole unto ourselves. So it's this chance to really own that ability to work with ourselves and to integrate and to digest while she's in the underworld. It's just perfect. We get that last hurrah with new Venus portal in Leo on the 25th. To bring some of that fire into the underworld. Uranus goes retrograde in Taurus, and that's going to help with that internal, the instructions of Uranus and the way that is moving through Venus, through Taurus, to bring that forth in our creative process, in our quiet time, in those chunks of time that we can focus. And then Venus joins the sun in Virgo on the 4th. And so now we are in this time when now the sun is, let me talk about that in a minute. I'm really trying to get through this in less time than I did the other versions of this. So Mercury is going to have a retrograde in the underworld in Taurus, that tangible earth sign. And everything applies that I said before about that. Really a time to slow down. We've got Venus in Virgo, we've got the sun in Virgo, we've got Mercury retrograde in Taurus. And so it is time to slow down, just in time for this next turn of the wheel, the solar wheel, when the sun goes into Libra. So to prepare for that, to clear out, to create space. Some of us, this used to really be built into our families and our cultural ways that we would have these ceremonies and these markers. And for a lot of us, those have fallen away. So it's a really good time to remember to clear out, get ready for the equinox on September 22nd this year. And then that's quickly followed by the new Venus portal in Virgo. And this is a really important new Venus portal. We could say this is the second most important point of this whole cycle. So Venus will join the sun in Libra on the 29th. Mercury goes direct in Virgo. Pluto goes retrograde in Capricorn. So we've got this, one going one way, the other going the other way. Mercury is much more personal and often felt, but the day of the Pluto retrograde can really feel like a reorientation, or a few days before or after, right at that peak Venus portal in Libra. And touching into that Plutonian energy of the deep transformation that we're being called to at this time. All of this is leading up to Venus meeting the sun in Libra on October 22nd. So we're starting our part 2 of the book. Venus is having divine union with the sun behind the sun, the secret spot. And because we're syncing with her, we're following her all the way around to this place that we can't even see. And so there's something here about her initiation and the depth of her initiation, being initiated into, again, her home sign Libra, and into a way of understanding how to meet sacred other. Libra is about other and how we learn through other, how other shows us parts of ourselves that we don't see. How do we do that without being a people pleaser? How do we tune in to the feedback from other without getting caught in our own need to make others feel okay? So the shadow side of Libra is codependence, but Libra is also Lady Justice. She's the one that can weigh objectively. And so this is a time where there's so much justice that is needed. And so this calibration here with Venus and the sun could really empower us to see that in our world. And again, to get out of reaction, to get out of any kind of defense or offense in our relations, and to find that coolness of the Libra to mediate, to say, what is the win-win here? Okay, let's see, what are all the facts? What happened? And to bring that objectivity. So this is Venus's masculine side, right? Venus's feminine side is Taurus, very subjective, earthy and sensuous. And so in it, that what is it, right? We're subjective, but this objectivity of the Libra and to meet with the sun there and that divine union really empowers us in our relationships, all of our relationships, partnerships of any kind. Part 2 begins. And on that same day, Saturn turns direct in Aquarius. It's like, all right, now that you've got that piece around this empowerment of your relations, how to create harmony without compromising or sacrificing what we need. How, that's what nature knows how to do this. We're learning how to do this. And Saturn's like, all right, let's go. Let's move towards that Aquarian mission. And even if that doesn't manifest immediately as far as actions, because we're still in underworld, there's that energy now moving forward. Then the sun and Venus drop into Scorpio. And for that new Venus portal in Scorpio on the 25th, this is a very intense. So we have this very powerful new Venus portal in Virgo with Venus star point in Libra. And then we have the second eclipse season for this year. So it starts out with Sun, Moon, and Venus together. So new moon and Venus, the new Venus portal for the only time in the whole cycle are on the same day, because everything is aligned when Venus is with the sun, and then the moon is there too. So they're all there. And then we have a partial solar eclipse in Scorpio in that shedding and that releasing part, the tail of the dragon. Jupiter slips back into Pisces, and that will probably add to the sense of, the watery sense of emotions and feelings. And something may be revealed with the eclipse in Scorpio. This is a huge opportunity for purification. Then Mars goes retrograde in Gemini. So that forward motion of Mars is going back and potentially experiencing some frustration and delays, and communication really needs to be clean. So we really need to draw upon that Venus and Sun in Libra quality of fairness and justice, because it's going to really show up if our communication has any barbs, has any unhealed Martian energy, aggression, when Mars goes retrograde in Venus, in Gemini. Okay, peak Venus portal in Scorpio on the day of the total lunar eclipse. So there you have it. We have the new Venus portal for the solar eclipse and the peak Venus portal for the lunar eclipse. Very powerful, transformative times. Mercury is going to meet the sun in Scorpio. All this happening on the 8th. And then we have a big shift in energy. That's the depths of the depths of the depths, the underworld, the meeting the shadow, the sitting in it, sitting in the deep feeling, sitting in the deep grief, sitting in the looking at the taboo that no one wants to look at. All of that's very Scorpionic. And then Venus comes into Sagittarius, and the heroine starts to rouse herself from this deep underworld journey to conceive like, oh, I am going to go to the topside world again. I am going to be revived to be able to travel back to the earth, being in the myth of Inanna and Persephone in the center of the earth in the underworld. So then Mercury comes and meets with Venus, and the sun moves into Sagittarius, and then Jupiter goes direct in Pisces. So the end of November, after all the intensity, really has, this sense of hope and optimism. And Sagittarius is that vision quest when you've gone through the longest, darkest night, and sat through the rain and the cold and sat up all night, and then watching the sunrise and going, oh, I got the vision. Okay, now I understand. That was hard. Now I understand. I'm going to move forward. So that new Venus portal in Sagittarius on the 24th, right around the Thanksgiving celebrated in some places, Sagittarius very much has that energy of gratitude and Thanksgiving. Of course, these holidays all have dominator culture woven into them. We can create new holidays that represent the energy of the signs. And there is a generosity and a connection. And, Sagittarius loves to sit around and tell stories and, sit with the fire. So it's a time to find connection again, to start to move into the evening star. So now we're looking to the west. Venus will be visible from around the 1st of December. And this is going to finish our 2022 year. So we get part of Sagittarius and then part of Capricorn for this 4th quarter. So we have Neptune now going direct in Pisces. So that Piscean unconditional love, healing of any old patterns that we have, the negative Pisces patterns, really lifts us through this final time in the underworld. And then Mars starts a new cycle on the 7th in the sign of Gemini, and they're opposite. So Venus is still in Sagittarius, Mars is now in Gemini, and in opposition to the sun. So Venus is still very close to the sun, and Mars is in this opposition. So now they're looking across the chart at each other. I just love that when they've been in this union for so much of 2022 and, so much about that integration. So really check in. How are you doing with your own sacred marriage? A peak Venus portal on the 8th, and then Venus goes into Capricorn, and we get to check in with the maturity of our feminine. And how are we leading with that inner wisdom? How are we trusting our body knowing? How are we claiming our natural authority? How are we risking to go for what we really want to create for a new reality, for a new world, for the children, really keeping the next generation in mind, regardless if we have children or not. We are the guardians of the future. And so that's going to be a time Venus is going to have gone on this whole heroine's journey and come back to Capricorn. So we're touching in with the energetic of the Capricorn in this part of her cycle, as she's newly visible now in the west after sunset, after the sun rays fade a bit. We can look and see her there. Then Jupiter goes back in Aries at the end of December on the 20th, which will be another burst of fire energy and things starting to really move forward from that deep underworld, time out of time feeling that can happen. And it's like, oh, here we go. The sun goes into Capricorn for solstice on the 21st, the day after that. That is a time to really revisit, reflect on the last year, and start to make our goals for 2023 and what's going to happen with that sacred mission. How are we going to bring it to the next level? Where did we succeed? Where did we fail? And then Chiron goes direct in Aries, just supporting the healing of the masculine as Mars is entering this new cycle to continue to heal from the dominator virus and to wake up to role as sacred protector of the feminine, of all life, of the children. And that is going to add to that forward motion. We have our final new Venus portal for this year in Capricorn. So that's so beautiful. And it's the first one there the last one that we'll have in 2022, right before Mercury goes retrograde in Capricorn, right around the same degree that Venus went retrograde in Capricorn last year, at this time that she was going retrograde in December. And then Venus is going to meet up with Mercury. They're going to have, a meetup and a check-in with Mercury retrograde. And then Venus is going to have her meet up with Pluto. So that feels like, the level that we're able to speak truth to power in our world, in our life, that we're able to really claim our absolute self-worth, and knowing that we're precious, we're here for a reason, we have gifts to offer, and we're powerful. And to be able to, be responsive to those around us, and also responsive to our own internal signal, and to really up level our ability to be in collaborations, deep collaborations. There's no way we're going to recreate this world alone. We need each other. And so part of the journey of the evolution of women's rights, is this movement from good girl and letting that good girl die, because that's the old conditioning. And then also letting the independent woman shed, so I think I've been talking too long. I'm having a little challenge saying this, but the independent woman is another version of the good girl. That's out of the book Unbound by Kasia Urbaniak that I so related to. So we need each other. We need collaborations. We need to ask for help. We need to receive help and have these big dreams that we're achieving, and be holding the guardianship of the future, but not to isolate ourselves. So this is going to be a really beautiful time with her meetup, a beautiful way to end the year, to say, yes, I'm willing to be more powerful. I have wed my power with love, and I'm going to bring it fully into the evening star cycle. So we're going to end there, and just a picture there of the preview of the next book that won't even begin until August 13th of 2023 will be the Venus and Leo cycle, which is exciting because there's a reverberation there of the solar feminine with Venus being in Leo. And it feels in some ways like we're heading into the hardest time this next cycle, with the changes in our reality and the old reality falling apart, and the financial systems really changing. I didn't go into that too much, but only so much time, and there'll be more to come. But we're learning to create alternative systems for, how we're going to organize ourselves and how we're going to take care of ourselves. And so it feels like this cycle is that time where we may need to be more conservative, Capricorn, and learn to live with less than maybe we've had, because, there's potential disruptions of what we've relied upon for, going to the store and just being able to get something, or technology, or it just feels like there's a lot of potential disruption that may come and go. And so we're learning how to be more flexible and stay in that center, in that quote, to root in our heart in the center of the seeming chaos as we walk between these worlds, from one world to the next. And it feels like the Leo cycle is going to be the beginning of that dawn of like, okay, I can feel it. It's coming. So blessings to you. I'm going to end it there. I hope you have an amazing 2022. Oh, I will not end it there, because I was going to summarize here this syncing with Venus, just to say once again, there's moving with her in the sky, which we just went through in a lot of detail. And then there's also discovering your own personal avatar. So I'm going to, anyone that's interested, direct you to the 5 days of Heroine's experience that helped you to discover your personal Venus avatar and all the elements of that, if you're interested to go deeper. And as I said, our journey is starting on March 25th, Heroine Journey of Awakened Heart. It's a 15-month initiation into the Venus mysteries in this Capricorn cycle. If you are a pioneering woman and you have big vision, you want to manifest your big vision, you have creative work that's calling you, and you want an exquisite container to support you, this is an amazing container to have the Venus cycle plus a group plus one-on-one individual astrological reflections along your way. So if you're feeling ready to bring more of your vision to the world and liberate yourself from your old patterns that no longer feel like you, rewrite your story and really strengthen that connection to your inner guidance and your signal, then this may be for you. So you can find out more at that website here, venuswisdom.com/heroine. And if you feel inspired, you can apply to join us. Okay, that is really a wrap. Many blessings to you, and stay in touch through the Venus Wisdom Collective. If you're not on the mailing list, I encourage you to get on, because we are making a plan to move off of Facebook in 2022. All right, bye for now.